Hi guys, Digital Principal and Computer Organization. The subject code is CS3351. This is the Unit 2 Synchronous Sequential Logic and Part 1 video. I am going to explain you, give the introduction about what is meant by Synchronous Sequential Logic and what all the topics are going to study in this unit. In my previous videos, I will explain about Unit 1 Combinational Logic and what are the examples of combinational logic. If you have how to clear about any concept in combinational logic, go and see my previous video. The sequential circuit is a kind of circuit which has memory to store the data to provide an output. The difference between combinational circuit and the sequential circuit is in combinational circuit there is no facility to store the data or information, but in sequential circuit there will be a facility to store the data, and it will provide the output based on present input and previous output. Present input and previous output. So the previous output is treated as the present state in the sequential circuit. Sequential circuit contain the combinational circuit and the memory element. It doesn't mean that always the sequential circuit contain the combinational circuit, but it has compulsory the memory to store the data and information. This is the block diagram of sequential circuit. We are going to provide an input is connected with the combinational circuit, and the combinational circuit is connected with the memory element to provide an output. First, if you are going to give any input as 0 and 1, first it will provide an output, and our next output is based on the previous output. Okay, in combinational circuit there will be no storage element, and it will not depend on previous or future input, but in sequential circuit it will depend on previous output to give the present output. Okay, so this is the difference between combinational and sequential circuit. The keyword in sequential circuit is memory or storage element to store the data or information to provide an output. Difference between combinational circuit and sequential circuit. It is one of the 2 mark question mostly asked in your university examination. Combinational circuit. The output of the combinational circuit depend only on the present input. I will explain this concept in my Unit 1 combinational circuit videos. The output of the sequential circuit depend on both present input and present state. The present state here is mentioned with previous output. That is, if you are going to give one input at a time, it will going to provide you output, and the next output is going to represent is depend on this previous output. So this output will be next considered to provide the second output. In combinational circuit, it is going to provide an instant output for instant input, because there is no memory element to store the data, but in this sequential circuit there is a memory element to store the data. Here the feedback path is not present in the combinational circuit, but the feedback path is present in the sequential circuit. In combinational circuit there is no requirement of memory, but in sequential circuit the memory element play an important role. So it is very important in sequential circuit. The clock signal is not required to combinational circuit. Here the clock signal is required for sequential circuit. The clock is also going to provide an important part to construct a sequential circuit, and the combinational circuit is simple to design. It is not simple to design. Comparatively, sequential circuit is difficult to design than the combinational circuit. Usually, the sequential circuits are classified into two types. One is asynchronous sequential circuit and another one is synchronous sequential circuit. First one is asynchronous sequential circuit. The asynchronous sequential circuit is changes in input can affect the memory element at any instant of time. Here we will not use the clock. If in sequential circuit, if we will didn't use the clock means it is called as asynchronous circuit, sequential circuit. If we use the clock to represent our output means that is a synchronous sequential circuit. And this unit is fully based on synchronous sequential circuit, and asynchronous sequential circuit is just you need to know what is meant by asynchronous sequential circuit. The whole unit is mainly based on synchronous sequential circuit. Instead of clock, in asynchronous sequential circuit, there will be a time delay element. If you are going to get an output for given input, there will be a time delay, but there is no clock. And the input signal is going to affect the memory element at any instant of time. So there will be no mention of time. This time it's going to affect. If it predict any error, it can affect the memory element at any instant of time, and the memory element do not have clock pulse in asynchronous sequential circuit. Next one is synchronous sequential circuit. It is very important in this unit, and the coming topics will be based on under this synchronous sequential circuit. So in this circuit, the input can affect the memory element only upon the activation of clock pulse. The memory units are clocked flip flop. The memory units are here clocked flip flop. This is the block diagram of synchronous sequential circuit. If you are going to provide an input and the input is connected with the combinational circuit and the output is connected with memory element, and the previous state is going to provide you the next output state. And the one more thing is that the clock is connected with the memory element. If the clock is connected with the synchronous circuit means the circuit is called as synchronous sequential circuit. If the circuit is didn't connect with the clock, it is called as only sequential circuit. If the clock is connected with the memory element, then the circuit is called as synchronous sequential circuit. The difference between asynchronous and synchronous is in asynchronous there will be no clock, but in synchronous there will be a clock, and the clock is connected with the memory element to provide an output. And next topic is clock signal and triggering. It is also the one of the important topic have you, that will be asked you in your university examination. What is meant by clock signal? So if you are going to connect the clock with the synchronous sequential circuit, the clock is going to represent with this symbol. If there is a high level of output, it is 1. If it represent the low value means it is represented with 0. That is this value is 1 and this value is 1 and this value is 0. In which on and if you are going to use the clock signal means all the time the on time and off time need not to be same. When the on and off time are same means you are going to get the square wave. Okay, when you will get the square wave, if the on time and the off time of the circuit will be equal, then your output will be represented in the square wave. If you are using the clock mean there are so many waves, like this wave is called as sinusoidal wave, but in digital electronics you will study about the square wave. Okay, I already represent this is the zero value and this is the 1, and it is also called as low value and this is also called as 1 value. Types of triggering. Usually the clock triggering is classified into two in sequential circuit. One is level triggering and another one is edge triggering. What is meant by level triggering? In level triggering, usually two, one is positive level triggering and another one is negative level triggering. The logic high and low are the two levels in the clock signal. This is the clock signal, right? Square wave clock signal. So here the triggering is occur in this one value, that is in higher value means that is called as positive level triggering. If the triggering is occurred in this clock signal in lower l- value or it is in zero value means then it is called as negative level triggering. Operator. So this is the positive level triggering. When the level triggering occurred in one high value means that is called as, so this, if the triggering is occur in this place, this is 1 and this is the high value of clock signal, then the triggering is called as positive level triggering. If the triggering is occurred in lower level or in zero level means then the triggering is called as negative level triggering. So this is this level triggering questions will be asked in 2 marks. This is called triggering and another one is negative edge triggering. Positive edge triggering and negative edge triggering. If the next topic is, next one is edge triggering. In if the in the clock signal, if the triggering is occur from high to low means that is called as, sorry, low to high. Next one is edge triggering. In edge triggering, there will be two type like the level triggering. So one is positive edge triggering and the negative edge triggering. In the clock signal, if the triggering is occur from low to high, so this is low value 0 and this is high value 1. So this is called as positive edge triggering. If the triggering is happen from high to low, that is 1 to 0 value means then the triggering is known as negative edge triggering. This is the positive edge triggering, and the edge triggering is occur from high to low value, that is, sorry, low to high value, that is 0 and this is 1, and this is called as rising level. This is called as rising level. In negative edge triggering, it's happened from high value, that is 1 to 0 low value, and this arrow mark represent the falling level. falling level. And this will be asked in the 2 mark question in your exams. In next video, I will cover about what is meant by flip flop and types of flip flop. Thank you guys.